If you've watched these little films in sequence, you will have heard me say that the road journey to Shimla was interesting. I may even have said exciting. If, however, I say that I wouldn't repeat the trip by road if somebody was to offer me a sizable sum of money, it probably says all that needs to be said. The road journey on this particular road against oncoming heavy goods traffic was not to be recommended, at least not by me. Anyway, the journey as far as this lovely place at Bilaspur, overlooking a man-made lake, one of the largest projects in India of this nature, was really wonderful and made that part of the trip worthwhile. It was the trip beyond on tortuously twisted roads in the face of oncoming traffic, which was, as I described, exciting. Mother Nature compensated, and as usual we watched the passing traffic outside. How that young lady balanced on that Vespa I shall never know. I never liked riding pillion myself, but the variety of traffic was most interesting, and the final 2 or 3 vehicles give you a clue as to the sort of traffic that we encountered further on our trip. Anyway, here we are the following morning outside our splendid and long-established hotel, Clark's Hotel in Shimla, which, as the sign says, was established in 1898. Shimla too is an important town of some 150,000 souls in the context of the British administration and Indian history since. It's now given over, or at least its populace are given over mainly to government service and also servicing the tourism industry. The geography of the place appears to be that it's the head of a valley, and there are a series of lateral roads and walkways running right to left across the picture, with the more significant buildings nearer the top of the hill, the church and various government buildings, and then as one moved down the hill one encountered the businesses and residential properties of the local populace. The programme for today, our first full day, was a steam charter from Shimla railway station, which is at the other end of this arc of development, to a town called Kathlagat. The little engine that pulled us had recently been refurbished at Amritsar. There was mention of that in our Amritsar visit, and my plan was to stroll along the Mall, photograph what I could of interest, and then join the train at Shimla station and enjoy the run down to Kathlagat. On the way back, the camera began to malfunction, and so we haven't got a complete record of the journey in both directions, but no matter, there would have been a degree of repetition had I done that. So here we go then. Enjoy my stroll in the direction of Shimla station, asking directions on the way, and enjoy the little sights and scenes that I've been able to put together in this film. You'll probably be as intrigued as I was with the display that some of them local monkeys were making in somebody's patio. They really were enjoying themselves. Their athleticism was to be admired, and they didn't seem to be doing any damage, just enjoying themselves. There's a little shot of an eatery with people producing breakfasts for the passers-by, and that too made interesting viewing. Anyway, enjoy the stroll.
अरे स्वाद लेगा, आएगा तो करारा करारा मजा पाएगा। और क्या करने क्या सब जंगल में आश्रय में नहीं बच्चे का था भैया लोड के आगे नौ 18 तो मेरा ही हो गया। 9 18 तो 18 और 16
In the far distance we can see the snow-capped Himalayan range, which is very, very much part of the scenery in this part of the world, however distant this particular view may appear to be. And this is a view in the direction from which I've just come. So our hotel and the start point of this little stroll is in the wooded area at the other end of the valley. Well, on a beautiful sunny morning we finally reached Shimla station, and there we see one of the little rail buses which operate on this line. They've got British Leyland bus engines, apparently, which must be of significant vintage but still performing well. In fact, tomorrow, i.e. the next day, we travelled the length of the line on one of those devices. But today was to be a steam excursion, and that too proved to be most enjoyable. Indian engines, particularly steam engines, seem to take a long time to get up to steam, and the amount of preparation necessary by the assembled crew and many spectators give credence to the statement that I've just made. But in the end we got going, as you'll see. As with the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, the Shimla to Kalka Railway is also a UNESCO certified site, and these two plaques give those details.
Yes, okay, I think.
And those four gentlemen are coolies, using an old word, but there is actually a room on the station called the coolie restroom, which I did actually find. Anyway, there's our locomotive, and they are busy there, raising steam. And there are the details of our locomotive. North British built in 1906, out of service for the 30 years, 1971 till 2001, and then refurbished with the help of the Amritsar Railway Works, which we visited a couple of days ago. And here she is, about to take us in the direction of Kathalgat. Meanwhile, Mother Nature gives us an interlude, rather like the old British black and white television, where between programmes you had an interlude. This is my nature interlude before we raise some more steam. Oh, there's a diesel interlude, but steam will emerge in a moment or two. time for another natural break, and in a moment or two, coming along the track, you see one of the unsung heroes of these hilly regions, the gentlemen that act as carriers, carrying anything from gas bottles to passengers' luggage up these twisting, winding hills. My goodness. Things are looking good. Our little loco is underway, and she performed admirably for the rest of the time we were with her.
这没音乐电水这也不知道。
And finally, after a significant wait, our loco is backing down onto its train. Fine study there of the two Davids checking their various films, but this is a study of what happens to a packet of crisps in an area of higher altitude. And the sound of the little locomotives, to my way of thinking, very puny steam whistle signals that we're on our way. served by this little station, Summer Hill Station, was very sought after in the days when the wives of serving officers in the Indian service were looking for a cool place to live during the summer, away from the hot plains below. This is Summer Hill. This was our first stopping place, Tara Devi, where I was able to take up a vantage point in the signal box to film the proceedings below. Being a single track line, there has to be provision for parking places, and Tara Devi is one such place. And here we are waiting for the little rail car to come in the other direction. I mentioned earlier that at least some of these have British engines in them, the original Leyland bus engines. Now we take a peek at the internals of the signal box. I think there may be as many as 10 operating levers in the box. I can only see 8 there, but there's 10 mentioned on the track diagram, or beneath the track diagram. second of our two opportunities to film the locomotive from outside, so to speak. Hardly a run past. We were standing on an overbridge and it made a stately approach. Well, this is the end of our outward journey. David in front of me there walks down the centre of the track, and we're approaching Catholigat station, where the locomotive will be turned by running round its train, and then a diesel will be attached to help us on the return journey, and we shall make our way back.
चलो सर चलो पॉइंट बने भाई किसने चलो सर चलो जाने दो राइट झटपट करो जरा हमारे उसको बड़ी घूमना है इतनी बड़ी घूमना करके चला ध्यान में करते हैं मान के जा रहा है तुम भैंसों डाल के जा रहा बुढ़ा केरा दौड़ता नहीं बुढ़ा केरा जब भैंसों डाउन में होगा ना कि ब्रेक नहीं लगी दुकान पर ब्रेक नहीं लगी तो मार के चला हाँ ये डाल करते हैं डाल
Unfortunately, we're now approaching the spot where the sound recording elements of my camera decided to misbehave. And so that's the end of our filming for today. But tomorrow, as I said at the start of this film, we should be leaving Shimla once again to run the whole length of the line to Kalka and on our way home. I covered the journey the following day back to Kalka on the rail car by still camera. My other equipment was packed away for the journey, and so here we leave Shimla for the last time, at least in 2013, although I was fortunate to make the same trip in 2015. And so the final sights of Shimla, and then we should be back on our rail car and on our way again, and the sights will be more familiar second time around. Thanks are due, of course, on these occasions to the Railway Touring Company, on whose tour we were busily engaged. We were sponsored extremely well in India by Travel Pals in Delhi, and their young associate director Amit travelled with us the whole time. I can strongly recommend this sort of holiday with anybody with an interest in railways and, of course, the people of the country which one is visiting. An excellent mix. So at least on this trip we say cheerio to our happy little bunch, the other members of the group. This little picture was taken at Tara Devi en route. Till the next time, cheers.